Hello everyone, my name is Michael Delacruz and I'm with the Secretariat of the Blue Shield International, and I'll be speaking to you today about recent activities of the Blue Shield in the area of civil-military cooperation. The Blue Shield was founded on the principles of the 1954 Hague Convention to support cultural property protection in armed conflict by working with militaries and civilians involved in that protection. Since our founding, we have developed and refined our approach, and my talk today will give you an overview of some of those activities. This will be the order of service, starting with a discussion of what we term the four-tier approach, which structures our civil-military engagements across a continuum from peacetime to post-conflict transition. Then, in the follow-on discussion, I will discuss Blue Shield activities across each of those four tiers, and then finally close out with some concluding observations about our future direction. Military organizations are always in a sequential process of planning, preparation, and execution in what is also known as the operations process. Blue Shield network activities can constructively impact at any point in this process. In more broad terms, these developmental activities help support the Blue Shield's four-tier approach to protecting cultural property during military operations through addressing all points within a continuum of conflict, from supporting sustained awareness during peacetime and steady-state operations, pre-deployment preparation, prosecution of military operations, including conflict, and in post-operational transition and stabilization. It is also important to recognize that at each tier, a military organization could be at any point in the operations process, planning, preparing, or executing activities in any one of them. So let's begin by taking a look at Blue Shield Tier 1 activities, which are generally focused on maintaining long-term readiness, preparing forces for unforeseen contingencies, or conducting partner training or capacity development exercises in a security cooperation context. In steady-state efforts, our Blue Shield national committees have a key role to play in maintaining long-term relationships with their military and other uniformed service counterparts. Here on the left, we see an image from a recent brigade-level training exercise supported by the members of the U.S. National Committee to familiarize members of a U.S. Civil Affairs unit with issues regarding cultural property protection. On the right, we see members of the UK Blue Shield discussing war damage to a historic church in Portsmouth. This with a student group from the Cultural Property Protection Unit Special to Arm course. In both cases, these training events were intended to develop long-term sustained capability within their respective forces, and were not a response to a specific crisis. One of the most effective ways of maintaining a sustained awareness and concern of CPP issues is through the various workshops and conferences, particularly those held by partner military organizations. One of the most successful venues for such discussions has been the Coping with Culture series of collaborative workshops hosted by the German Bundeswehr. This conference series, which draws upon a wide international network of participants from politics, civil society, military, and the academic community, affords the opportunity to address specific geopolitical concerns that affect the consideration of cultural factors in military planning and operations. The Blue Shield is also active in hosting its own events, often in partnership with other institutions, such as this last July with the Nordic Cultural Heritage Analysis Center, to address issues such as the changing understanding of cultural heritage as a military issue or planning factor. One area of activity that the Blue Shield is becoming increasingly active in is fostering cooperative military-to-military partnerships in the area of cultural heritage protection in a peacetime security cooperation context. In these types of activities, the emphasis is on developing capabilities to support other government or civil society organizations in assessing environmental or human impacts on cultural heritage. As a case in point, Blue Shield recently supported U.S. Southern Command by coordinating a subject matter exchange on cultural heritage site assessment with U.S. Army Civil Affairs personnel, members of the Honduran Army and Special Forces, and the Honduran Institute for History and Anthropology. The objectives of this engagement were to develop expertise in both U.S. and Honduran militaries to support the Honduran government in assessing often remote and inaccessible cultural heritage sites potentially damaged by extreme weather events such as hurricanes. Tier 2 activities are involved in the specific preparation of forces prior to deployment to support an unforeseen contingency or a rotational operation or exercise, and might specifically involve some level of evaluation in order to support the assessment of readiness. One of the areas where the Blue Shield has been most proactive in supporting pre-mission training has been with the UN peacekeeping missions. Specifically, the Blue Shield has had a long-standing relationship with UNIFIL since 2013, training multiple cohorts since then, and recently signing an MOU with UNIFIL in October 2020. The Blue Shield shall be running a one-week training course with the UN Peacekeeping School in Ireland in February 2022 with a multinational audience. We anticipate this will become an annual event. In addition, the Blue Shield has provided training to the Fijians in 2016 and 2017 and the Irish Defence Forces in 2019 in advance of peacekeeping operations. Select members of the U.S. National Committee of the Blue Shield have been instrumental in working with the U.S. Department of Defense in pioneering realistic field training to prepare troops for deployment to support combat operations in the U.S. Central Command area of operations. Likewise, working closely with the recently re-established U.S. Army Monuments officers, committee members assisted in the design and development of cultural protection training programs for civil affairs personnel deploying worldwide. In the original definition of the four-tier approach, the term to describe Tier 3 is conflict, which speaks to the conditions for which the Hague Convention was designed. The nature of conflict or competition has taken on many faces since 1954, to include operations other than war. So in this regard, we rephrase this, for the purposes of this discussion, as operations in conflict or crisis. This also accounts for the requirement for the military to occasionally respond to natural or man-made disasters. Support to Tier 3 is nonetheless the most pertinent and serious of all civil-military coordination activities conducted by the Blue Shield across the entire operations process, to include planning, preparation, and execution. Where this has most significantly come into play in recent years is through increasing support provided to multilateral NATO Article 5 exercises. It is under Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty where the obligations of all member states to the collective defense of mutual interests are defined. Although cultural heritage plays a limited explicit role in the current NATO policy and procedural framework, this is where a strong proactive response from the Blue Shield has been influential in reinforcing the common obligations all members of the Alliance have in safeguarding cultural heritage throughout the Euro-Atlantic region, particularly in the context of collective defense. The Blue Shield has recently been involved in the scenario development and execution of two such exercises in 2020 and 2021, and anticipates continuing that support in 2022. Immediately following the horrendous explosion at the port in Beirut on the 4th of August last year, the Blue Shield supported the Lebanese NGO Biladi and the Lebanese Committee of the Blue Shield to help identify immediate security and safety needs for 600 historic buildings, 8 museums, 15 libraries, and 10 art galleries. Building on a long-standing partnership between the Blue Shield, Biladi, the Directorate General of Antiquities, the Lebanese Armed Forces, and UNIFIL, the partners were also able to secure and stabilize a number of historic buildings that had been damaged in the blast, including the one housing the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. With the lessons learned from response and recovery operations, the Blue Shield returned to Beirut in July 2021 for 2 training courses, organized and facilitated by Biladi, for the Lebanese Armed Forces Independent Works Regiment and for UNIFIL personnel. The sharing of most effective practice is an integral element to the Blue Shield's approach to operations in crisis. Tier 4 represents the Blue Shield's activities in support of post-conflict or post-crisis transition and stabilization. The Blue Shield has been actively engaged in supporting NATO exercises outside the Article 5 context since 2018. Non-Article 5 exercises, and specifically those organized under Article 4, are generally oriented towards mitigating tensions or instability in areas outside the Euro-Atlantic region. These exercises afford the opportunity for the Blue Shield to introduce cultural property protection issues within a wide range of transitional or post-conflict situations, to include civil instability or unrest, transitional or unstable governance, developing and inconsistent public security. Not only do these exercises provide benefit to the training audiences, but they also allow the Blue Shield the opportunity to assess best practices in response to a variety of generated conditions. In addition to NATO exercises, the Blue Shield likewise engages with the broader uniformed sector in their development of policies and protocols related to cultural property in the domain of stability policing. In November 2021, we contributed to the first conference on CPP run by the NATO Center of Excellence for Stability Policing, run by the Carabinieri, and we have been invited to work with them more closely, participating in a CPP network that they are establishing. Over the last 2 years, the Blue Shield has supported the OSCE, the Organization for Security Cooperation in Europe, in their training efforts, aimed not only at addressing illicit trafficking, but also in strengthening the understanding within the wider security sector of the obligations under the Hague 54 Convention. So, in closing, in terms of our future direction in civil-military engagement, the Blue Shield will further develop approaches for Tier 1 security cooperation activities, maintain support to UN peacekeeping as a pillar of Blue Shield civ-mil engagement, broaden National Committee capacity to develop and deliver general awareness and pre-deployment training, continue its strengthening partnership with NATO in the scripting and execution of Article 5 and Article 4 exercises, and enhance the expertise and understanding of cultural property protection issues in the context of stability and transition operations through close institutional partnerships. Thank you for your attention.